As you guys know, one of my top five favorite shows, actually I would love to say like it's number one, honestly, is Gilmore Girls. So here's what happened. I was watching the episode and I happened to be thinking to myself also in the background about ideas I could have for videos. And then I also realized that the I Am All In podcast just dropped a whole new episode and they actually just covered this. So I thought this was all just perfect timing and I'd like to share my thoughts on this whole debacle. But first, before we get too deep, I'd like to start off with a disclaimer. I am not talking about any of the actors themselves. I am only talking about the characters. None of my videos at all are at any point intended to offend anyone. And if you feel offended in the comments, you're more than welcome to voice those concerns. However, just because you disagree does not give you the right to be disrespectful. So let's be kind in the comment section. All right, let's begin with the video. Many people often get very confused as to why Emily and Lorelai's relationship cannot be the same as Rory and Lorelai's relationship. But I'm here to tell you why. Well, for starters, Kelly Bishop has actually said that she purposely made Emily the way that she was.
I kind of made her my grandmother. My mother's mother treated my mother very much like...
Is that so?
Yeah, and my mother and I were really good friends, like Lorelai and Rory. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of interesting.
So even Kelly Bishop herself has said, that she thinks that Emily is horrible or whatever. So this is not just me. The actress herself has deemed Emily as horrible. Emily and Lorelai are very, very different. Now, they do share some similarities. Sometimes I do catch them when watching the show. However, for the most part, their similarities that they do have are not strong enough to really maintain a bond between them. I don't understand how people are still confused on this, but why they basically will never, ever probably be on the same page. And also how they can actually get to the same page. This is my girl. This is my girl right here. Okay. So this is my favorite thing to talk about. Anyways, so basically if you've ever watched Gilmore Girls, you already know that Lorelai's personality and Emily's personality are completely two different things. And they do not ever see eye to eye. For those of you who don't know, Lorelai is this angel right here. And that is Emily. You could even take a look at the types of food that they eat, and it's not even the same. Lorelai is more like pizza, junk food, candy, ice cream, cake, Pop-Tarts, blah, blah, blah. And Emily is salmon. And I'm a picky eater like Lorelai, so I don't like salmon. And Emily is more like caviar and uppityness and blah, 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 In the episode where they did the flashback, I think that they were trying to low-key wink at us and be like, hey, hey, Emily is conservative. And it wasn't even a wink for real. It was more like a, that kind of thing. So think about it kind of like imagine oil and vinegar. That's basically what should come to mind. My favorite episode of Gilmore Girls, as far as the whole Lorelai and Emily stuff, has got to be the flashback episode, because we're finally able to visibly see some of the events that were happening that caused them to really drift apart even more. But I think as Scott Patterson said in the I Am All In, oh my God. I think as Scott Patterson said in the I Am All In podcast, oh my God, help me. He was just saying there's no way that she just randomly up and left. There had to be a bunch of build up to that. And I totally feel him when he said that, because yes, why did she just why all of a sudden on that particular day did she decide to leave? Because they've always been beefing that. I got that vibe that they've always been beefing. So that brings me to my next subject, where I'm going to be talking about Emily and the abuse and why she's dead in the wrong, and she can only blame herself for their relationship. And there's people that would disagree, but they will be wrong. I'm just playing. If you disagree, let's just remember to keep it respectful. Thank you for watching. For me personally, one of the worst fights that I saw was the one that happened in the revival, because I just felt like Emily really hit below the belt so bad. And some people were trying to argue that oh no, Lorelai was completely out of line and out of character. Now, did I feel like that was an appropriate story for her to tell? No. But look at the relationship that she has with her parents. Are you really surprised? I'm speaking from the perspective of a person who like also deals with this, and why like I personally do not go to funerals, because like I feel like I would have done something similar just because I was so uncomfortable and literally could not think of anything else. And I know some people be like, no, that's complete BS. Like, no, like you're whatever. But like when you struggle already in social situations, like a person like Lorelai, like a person like me, and then you're like, you feel like the heat is on, like anything would come flying out of your mouth. I think this goes for both of them when I say that grief does a lot to a person, and it can bring out the worst in a person, especially when you're dealing with it. And anyone who knows this character should know that like this is her. This is her. Like, this is not her like I don't think she was being offensive on purpose. I think that she just, like I said, she just thought of the first thing that came to mind. And unfortunately, the first thing that came to mind was these awful stories. But like this whole show is centered on them having a terrible relationship, with her having a terrible relationship with both of her parents. Emily feels like Lorelai's world is crazy. She feels like it's full of people who don't have anything going for themselves. How could they want to stay in such a small town? She doesn't understand it. And Lorelai feels the exact same way about people who are in uppity society. She feels like it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why there are all these unspoken rules about living in that type of society. It just seems nuts to me. Their biggest issue, as they've stated before, is communication. Emily does not communicate her wants and needs and everything with Lorelai, and Lorelai does not do the same. And another one of their issues is trust. They both don't trust each other with any information about things enough to move the relationship forward. And this is not out of thin air. This is what people gotta understand. This whole thing with Lorelai not telling her parents anything, not letting them in on her life, keeping them in the dark about every little thing, every little detail in her life, is not by accident. I understand people don't see that. It's not just a random thing, her just being defiant. This is years and years of built up abuse, and this is how she is dealing with the results of that. I would love to see change in this relationship, but the likelihood of that ever happening is probably none. And I'm gonna tell you why. Emily feels like there's nothing for her to change. That is the biggest problem. I think that Lorelai would be more open to trying to mend this bond, and I think she is. I think even to this day, if the show was still on and running episodes, I think like she has shown ample times that like she wants her mother in her life. She wants to have a good relationship with her. Emily does not want to change anything. She feels like her way of showing how she feels about her daughter and talking to her daughter, she feels like all the things she's done is like her trying to be a respectable mother. But as a result, I think it's made Lorelai like dehumanize her to a certain extent. It's very hard to sympathize with somebody when they're constantly acting like they're always perfect. Lorelai is not a type of mom. She shows her flaws. She's open about how she wants to change her mindset and things on, her parenting style and whatever. She gives Rory the opportunity to be herself and be unapologetic about it. She forgives Rory when she makes mistakes and doesn't hold it over her head. Like who? Like Emily. Lorelai could literally do something 8 months ago and Emily will still be talking about it at the Friday night dinners as though it just happened. Emily constantly takes digs at Lorelai and makes her feel like she's not good enough. So, I mean, how do you not see how that would drive a wedge between them? But the same can also be said about Lorelai as far as like her also not letting things go. Which I understand why she has not let a lot of these things go, but she also does not let things go too. I think what makes it harder for Lorelai to fully move on and forgive her mom for everything that's happened in the past is the fact that her mom is still doing things. Like it's ongoing. It hasn't gone away. She didn't turn 16, run away, and then come back to enter her mother's life and everything was different. It's literally basically the same, except she doesn't have to live with her anymore and be forced to hear every single degrading comment over and over and over again. That's the thing with this show. It's like, I think they did this intentionally. Like, no one is ever fully in the right and no one is ever fully in the wrong. Even though I do have my feelings about Emily. But I'm able to see that not in every situation is Emily always the villain. It is so hard for me to say that because I've known a lot of Emilys in my life, and it's just a headache. But if Emily were to stop focusing so much on what society may think of her and how she acts with her daughter, I think they would be a lot better off. And this is mainly me talking about like them in the older show, not really A Year in the Life, because I know towards the end she kind of changes a little bit, but yeah.